Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this maxi dress. So guys, I'm going to be doing an illustration on it because I uploaded a short on it and people were asking me if I could make an illustration of it. So guys, you understand I can't make like everything. I apologize, I can't make everything as like a size that I can wear, but I can illustrate it on a paper just so you guys would understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to try my best to explain everything in detail. Just follow the whole thing the way I'm doing it on this paper, but on a bigger, on your fabric, and just using the same method with a bigger measurement, just your own measurement, you understand? But every method I'm using here is just going to be exactly the same. It's just that it's on a smaller scale and is on a paper, but exactly how I'm doing it on this paper is how you're going to do it on your own fabric, and just with difference of your own measurement. So first thing I'm going to do here, you see I folded this in such a way that it's like how you cut your basic bodice. So that's, I'm going to be working with a basic bodice for this. So you see the fabric at the back is folded into two. The fabric in front is folded into two also, you see, is folded into two. So basically what I have here, for what you have on top is just your bust divided by 4 plus 1. What you have at the bottom part here for the back panel is just extension of the back of the front panel, but with 1 inch at the center. This will serve as your zip, right? So now let's go ahead and draw in a basic bodice. So first thing, I'm going to go ahead and insert your shoulder measurement divided by 2, whatever that is. You're going to go ahead and mark it, right? And then you're going to come down here by your 1 inch of shoulder slope and mark that, right? And then after that, you are going to go ahead, because like I said, the width of this is the width of your front panel is basically your bust divided by 4, whatever that is. You add 1 inch to it, or 1.5, depending on how much seam allowance you would want. So once you add that, that will be the width of this front panel. So whatever that your bust measurement is, divided by, round your bust is, right? Whatever, if it's 38, if it's 40, if it's 42, whatever your bust measurement is, divided by 6 and then add 1.5 to it. That way you will get the length for your armhole. So whatever you get, mark it here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that, and then I'm going to connect it all the way to the top. So this is going to be my armhole. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and give it a curve here, right? And then after that, you're going to go up to the neck and mark your 3 inches of neckline. And then once you mark it, come down here, mark your 3 inches of neck width. Guys, as I'm saying the numbers, you're going to understand what I'm saying. So you're going to mark 3 inches. Remember, what I'm marking here is our basic body. So mark 3 inches of your neckline, 3 inches of your neck width. And then you're going to also go ahead and mark 1 inch for the neck depth. And then connect it this way. So guys, if you feel like the 3 inches of neckline might choke you a little bit, maybe on the bigger side, you can go ahead and do 3.5 or 4 inches for the front neckline. But 1 inch for the back neckline is okay. Some people even like to do 1.5 just so it's not coming up to their neck a lot. So you can do 1.5 inch, like from the top here to 1.5 for the back neck, and then 3.5 for the front neck, you understand? So once that is done, I'm also going to go ahead and connect my 1 inch of shoulder slope to this point here. And guys, in case I haven't said this, the length you're working with is just your half length. That's your shoulder to your waist plus 1 inch. So let's say your shoulder to your waist is 16 plus 1 inch, that's going to be 17. So that's the length you're going to be working with here. So once that is done, go ahead, mark your bust divided by 4, mark that here, and then add 1 inch of seam allowance. Come down to your waist divided by 4, mark that, and then you're going to need about 2 inches. So you're going to need 2 inches extra here. That will be 1 inch of your darting and 1 inch of your side seam allowance. So now for your dart, you just need to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2, wherever that is, mark it. And then normally for some people it can be nipple to nipple, might be 8, it might be 7. So divide it by 2 and use that here. Guys, if you notice, as I'm saying the measurements, I might be using a smaller number on the paper because like this is a miniature illustration. So I'm going to go up here and connect. That is going to stop at least 1 inch before your nipple line. So you're going to measure from your shoulder to your nipple, wherever that is. Your dart is going to stop 1 inch before that for the front. and then you're going to just connect it all the way, half an inch on this side and then half an inch on this side. So that's basically it for this here. Now all I need to do is to cut, and I'm also going to try to transfer these darts to the back. The dart is going to be 1 inch before your nipple line in front, but for the back is going to go all the way to your chest line, which is where this your armhole line is. This part where the armhole cuts over to this side is where the dart is going to go up. So it's going to go from here all the way up to this line somewhere here and stop. So now let's go ahead and cut off the excess. So guys, once we have our basic bodies down, we've cut out the shoulder slope, the armhole, the back neck, and then the front neck. So if you have the excess on the side too, you can also go ahead and cut that off. So now how that neckline is. You see, if you look at her shoulder, you notice that it's almost halfway. Like that neckline is what they use for her. So what I'm going to do is find halfway through this your shoulder. So whatever it is, if it is 4 inches, you're going to use 2 inches. If it is like, let's say, whatever you have as the shoulder slope after you've cut out everything, you're going to go ahead and find halfway through that. So if it's 4, I'm going to mark it as 2 in between the shoulder. If you find that what you have here is becoming too small, you want more, what you can do is you can decide to do maybe 2 inches in or 1.5 inch in, instead of splitting it into 2. You understand? Because remember, you still use half an inch for your bias here and half an inch for the bias in the neckline. So what will be left might be too small for you, and you want it to cover a little bit of your bra strap. So what you can do is you can take away like 1.5 here, depending on what you're working with. Let's say I have 4 inches as the shoulder here. I can decide to do, if I decide to take away 1.5 from here, that would leave me with about 2.5 at least. So that way, if I use half an inch for my bias or lining and then half an inch again on the neckline, at least I'll still be left with 1.5. So it depends on you how you want yours to look. So once that is done, you're going to go ahead and connect it from here, blend it into where your armhole is coming from this way. Yeah, you see, once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and cut it off. When you cut this, sometimes it might still be too high. Like when you use a straight line to blend it into the armhole, it might still be too high. If you don't want that, you can even go in. If you want it to cut in more like a C cut in, you can just go in with your scissors and just chip in a little bit more inside of it and just remove a little bit more fabric. Because when you cut it straight with using your ruler to blend it in, sometimes it just goes sharp this way and it doesn't give that, like it doesn't give it that a little bit of curve. You want to get that, just use a curve. Use you can use your chalk first, just so you can visualize what you're doing before you use scissors, because once you use scissors you can't go back. So just try to take it in a little bit more and then cut this excess off. That way it's going to give you more skin out. If you don't want more skin out, stick to the straight line. Once that is done, you're going to come in here halfway through this line, wherever that is. You're going to find halfway through there, mark a straight line. Maybe it's probably like 2 inches or 2.5 in, and then you're going to mark half an inch on this side, half an inch on this other side. This is just for you to get a dart here. Just not be gaping open by the armhole. So this is only done in front. The back will blend in perfectly, but for the front, because of the bust, it might start to gape in a little bit. So that's why it's advisable to give it like this, a little bit of a dart. Not up to half an inch. You can do quarter of an inch. That's 0.25 on this side, 0.25 on this other side above it. Not up to 1 inch, because 1 inch might be way too much. So just a little that, 0.25 down, 0.25 up, and that's basically all you have to do. You've gotten your measurements, and then we have our zipper allowance at the back that is with this here. So all we have to do is now open up the back here, and you have your back panel. Guys, remember also that you still have a dart at the back here. So guys, another thing I like to do to help I've showed you everything that you need to do in front to help it look good. So now what you're going to do for the back to make your change is just to go ahead and come up here by 1 inch at the center back. You see where my zipper is? Come up here 1 inch and then blend it in. You see how my ruler is placed? It's not placed straight. It's cutting off where the side is. So the side will still remain the same length. But going from this point now, my ruler is angled this way. So you're just going to mark it this way and then cut this off. The sides are still the same, but coming in from the center, it will help the back not to, because remember your front has your bust, it goes this way. and goes down, but your back is just straight. So you need to reduce the back length a little bit, just so that, but your side is the same both in front and the back, so you can't affect the back. It's only your center back where there is no bust or anything. You need to reduce the length there so that your zip will not bulk up and then the back will not drop. So that's why you always have to remove this 1 inch here. At least I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now. So guys, you see everywhere that we have that at the back, you see these two parts are the zipper. They'll meet together this way. So you're going to fold this in for your two zipper parts to meet each other, right? When you go to sew, and then the dart, you're going to also pick your dart this way and sew it in, right? And then the shoulder for the front. Now let me bring in the front panel. You see the front, we have a dart here going up. You see my dart at the back is stopping at the chest line, and then the front dart, you have this one coming in, like I said, 0.25, 0.25 for a small person. For a bigger person, you might want to do maybe 0.75, half an inch at the top, half an inch at the bottom. It depends on how much gaping you think will be there, or after you finished everything. For a smaller person, it might not even gape at all. But if like a very small person, maybe bust of 32, it might not gape at all. So, but a bigger person, because of the bust, it will surely open up at that point. So now, so join your shoulder, take away the dart, close up the side, and then our top bodice is ready to be joined to the bottom bodice. Remember, the width on a fold is your bust divided by 4 plus 1. The length is your half length plus 1. So let's go over to this bottom part. So guys, this is how we are going to be cutting the skirt. So basically, you will need to fold your fabric, like I said, except you're doing it on a pattern paper. Fold the first one into 2. As you can see, this is folded into 2, and then the second one is also folded into 2 again also. So the width I have here is just your hip divided by 4. That's got to be here. So this is actually your waistline, the hip line, and then where you want the basic line to be. So you can do 2 inches below your hip. So let's say from your waist to your hip is 10 inches, and then from there to here you can do 2 inches below that, which is going to be at 12 inches, right? So this is going to be where the basic line will be. So now the next thing you're going to do is just to go ahead and insert your waist measurement divided by 4. So whatever that is, right, you're going to go ahead and mark it, and then plus 2 inches of 1 inch of seam allowance, and then 1 inch of your darting. That's basically what you're going to have here. So that's extra 2 inches. Come down to your hip, do the same thing, hip measurement divided by 4, mark that, and then you're going to go ahead and also add, like, let's say 1 inch. This is just as if you're marking this is just as if you're marking your basic bodice, right? So, but you will not be needing this hip measurement, but you just need the hip line. But I'm just trying to demonstrate something here. So after that, the next thing you're going to do now, except you're working with a fabric, guys, except the fabric you're working with. So guys, everything I'm saying so far is if you're working like the upper bodies, the whole body of the clothes, like the upper part that has the basic part, if it's not a stretchy fabric, guys. If it's a stretchy fabric, then you'll not be needing the dart at the waist, especially because all you have to do is just to go ahead and do the waist divided by 4. Just use your waist divided by 4, whatever it is. Let's say it is 7. Go ahead and mark 7, and then just add your 1 inch of sewing. Come down to the skirt part. Your waist divided by 4 again. Mark the 7 or whatever it is, 8, and then add your 1 inch of sewing. There will not be any dart. You can't add a dart if the fabric is stretchy. But let's say the upper bodice now, the plain colored fabric part, that it has a, like, it's a stiff fabric, it's a cotton fabric, it doesn't have any stretch to it, then you will need a dart. But if you're working with a stretchy fabric, no dart, just go ahead, do your waist measurement divided by 4 plus your 1 inch of sewing. But if it requires a dart, the fabric doesn't have a stretch, do your waist divided by 4 plus extra 2 inches. 1 inch for this darting that we're adding, which we also need to add at the skirt part now, plus your 1 inch for your side seam allowance. I hope that makes sense. So now that this is done, what we're going to do is just to go ahead and so guys, you see what I'm saying now? This is it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off so you guys can see, and then I'm also going to split it open, because remember the back has a zipper. So I'm going to split this open just so you guys will see. So So guys, you see you have two back panel. My zipper, you see, so the zipper part will be folded away. Like when you go to join it now, this zipper part here will be tucked in this way on this side. This one also be tucked in on this side. And then you see my front panel, this one, it will be placed on top this way. And then I have a 1 inch of seam allowance here, 1 inch of seam allowance here. So guys, that's basically how you're going to do it. And then what you're going to do, I'm sure you're going to be thinking, how are you going to calculate the length of the flare you work with, how to add it. So guys, what you can do is just to measure round. So you're going to measure round from this point. So you're going to measure what you have round here, from here in front all the way to this point, from here again all the way to this point. You see my front and my back, whatever it is, like you can even place it this way and then just measure it this way for both the front and the back, you understand? So whatever you get, so let's say you get about 40, right? So what you're going to do is that 40 inches you can do times 3 of it. So that means you're going to be working with 120 of width. So your fabric will be running 120 in width this way. That's the width of the fabric will be 120, not the length, but the width you're going to use so that you can be able to gather it at the edge of this will be like, let's say 120 times 3 is what you will use. Because one thing with this is you want the flare to be much, right? You don't want to use less than that, except you don't have enough fabric, then you can do, but times 2.5 would not give you exactly what you're looking for. You need times 3. So whatever you get once you measure it, use times 3 of that. In case you're wondering, okay, how you now calculate the length. So guys, if I was making a gather dress like directly to the waist, this would have been what I would, this length here is what I would just cut the whole bottom of my flare to be, right? So that means my bottom part, because it's just this and this will now give me my full length of my dress, which is 57, right? So now what I need for the bottom part is 41. So that's the length of the bottom part. But this 41, I can't cut it, it will be too long because I already have 2 inches of this part here, right? You can't use this center part, the longest part of this bottom part, you can't use it. That's this 12 inches. If you use this 12 inches, that means when you get to this side, it will drag it up and it will be, this part here will be short. So you have to use the shortest part of your clothes, which is here. You understand? So that means that 2.5 that you took away from this, whatever it is, that 2.5 that you marked down here, you're going to subtract it from this. So if it's 2.5 that we used, if you take away 2.5 from this, it will give me, so subtract 2.5 from this now. What I'm going to be left with is 38.5, right? So 38.5 will be now my length from down here all the way. So that means I'm going to use the length of 38.5 to cut what I'm going to use to make my gather by length. You understand? So now you're going to take that piece of cloth. So let's say this is the piece of cloth now. You're going to just take it now, and it's 38 by 38.5 in length. You're now going to take it together at the end here. But I know you'll be thinking, but that means the center part will drop more. It's better for the center part to drop. That way, once you finish attaching your gather all the way around, you just take your fabric this way, your cloth that you've already cut, fold it into 2 this way, stretch it out on the table with all the flare going down this way, right? And then what you have to do, because I know by the end now, this part will be looking way too long. So you're just going to take your tape from this point now, from the shoulder, and measure where does my 57 stop. So let's say your 57 stops here. You're going to go ahead and cut everything off at this point. Cut off that part that is dropping the most, which is this angled part. Cut it off and then fold your fabric into 2. You understand? So that's basically how you're going to get this. Because let's say you decide to use this center. Let's say now you decide to subtract 12, because remember we did our waist to the hip, and then plus extra 2 inches below the hip. That's total of 12 inches. So let's say you decided to use that 12 inches to subtract from this. That will leave you with about, let's say, about 29 or so. I'm not sure, about 29. So let's say if you use 29 to put all the way around here, this part here will give you 57. This part will reach to the floor, but it will hang by the side. The rest of the side now will not drop, or it will not give you maxi dress. It will just angle this way, just angle like a V. giving you the longest part being the center, and then this other one's hanging. But if you use the side, that way you can you get the most of your length, and then you can always go back in and shorten it, and then cut off the rest and then fold it. So guys, once you calculate what you need, remember you need to still add your seam allowance, and your seam allowance is basically plus 1.5, which will be half an inch to join and sew this together with your flake coming in. So you need like half an inch at the edge of your cloth too, so that you can use it together it at the end of this cloth coming in this way, right? And then your drop, it will drop down, and then at the edge here you need 1 inch to fold the edge this way. That's 1 inch at the end. So that's why when I go to cut this now, it will be about, let's say, 40 inches instead of 35.5, if that makes sense. So guys, it depends on you. You can do 3 inches coming down from your hip. That means you're going to subtract 3 inches here. So that's basically how you're going to be cutting this. I hope you guys understood everything. The same thing goes for the back. Everything you did for the front, you will do for the back. The only difference is that the back has the zipper, and that we shortened it at the center part. When you're measuring the amount of fabric you use for the gather, you have to measure from this point to this point. And then let's say you get 20 for the back and then 20 for the front. Add the two of them together, you get 40. And that 40 you multiply it by 3, and then that 3 is whatever you get, which is like 120, or if it's 50, whatever you get, that will now serve. Let's say it's 50 times 3, that's, you got 25 in front, 25 at the back, you got 50. That's, if you add it together, is 50. That 50 now is what you use for your times 3 of it, that's 150, will be the width. When I say the width, I mean going this way, the wider parts that we use for gather, not the length. So that's basically it here, guys. So thank you guys so much for your time, and I'll see you in my next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.